Going to begin. I'm going to try something new today, and I'm going to wait a little while to make life easier for Kim. And we're going to do like a poll, and I'll hit it live in a few minutes. Make sure everybody's on. And it's just, are you here? And you can type whatever you want. It doesn't matter because your name will show up with whatever you write anyway. And we'll use that for attendance purposes. So then we have a record. It does it when we have votes too, but if people leave before we vote, then it's not super accurate. So anyway, so that's what we're going to try new today. But welcome back, everybody. Oh, someone's holding a sign up for me. Is it Michael Delaney telling people to put their cameras on?
Oh.
I can't see the sign. It is, but it is. I found it. That was a pretty good guess, wasn't it? Please turn on your video if you have a camera. Thank you, Michael. Resurrected from retirement. Always giving us good reminders. But yeah, so welcome back. Our first Senate meeting of 2021. And I feel like this semester's been a bit of a whirlwind so far, but we finally made it to week 4. So we got our third week rosters in. We got a good feeling with how we know our students and how they're doing at this point of the semester. So, and I feel like I can breathe a little bit more, especially those beginning of the semester emails when the students are trying to figure out how everything's working and how to do certain things. I feel like they hit a rhythm and now I hit my rhythm, and you know, it'll be a good rest of the semester. Just a reminder that next Monday is the holiday, but we are in session for school for the week due to that calendar change. You may want to remind your students because mine seemed to forget, or they just didn't know that. So you might want to think about doing that as well. And then I'm just going to also make an announcement for anybody that's rank advancing, because I am. Your paperwork has to be in March 1st to HR. So make sure if you're rank advancing, you get that piece of paper in with the application. So that's just a few little housekeeping items. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Bill, but I'm going to start the poll. And Katrina, I'll write you in there. I know you're here. And there we go. So go ahead and take your attendance, and then Bill, you're up.
Thanks, Colleen, and thanks as always for the opportunity to share some brief updates. As Colleen indicated, I hope everyone's having a great spring semester. Hopefully this is the last spring semester that we're dealing with everything that we need to deal with. As far as our enrollment, it continues to be a very troubling concern for the institution. Our numbers as of this morning, our FTEs were down 19.18%, and our head count is down 15.49%. I don't suspect a significant amount of change in those numbers. We had budgeted 15%. That obviously drives a very significant component of our operating budget as far as our revenue. So we need to remain diligent as far as our vacancy control as well as our spending restraints. We last year actually finished the year excluding some one-time revenues from the CARES Act with a spending deficit of almost $13 million. So we overspent our budget by $12.96 million on a $105 million base. That is not good. We overspent our salaries by over $5 million last year. Again, about 12% over budget. In the last 3 years, our reserves have gone from over $18 million down to almost about 0.5% of our operating budget. So we have really utilize any and all reserves. So our reserves are about 0.64% right now, and the board policy suggests that we should be at about 16.67%. We did get some one-time funds last year from institutional cares as well as county cares, and we're obviously very hopeful that we'll get some funds allocated from the December stimulus as well as some other federal dollars directly to community colleges. So we're not out of the woods. I don't want to rely on one-time revenues to sustain operations, but we have some financial challenges at the college. Our Board of Trustees had their last regularly scheduled meeting January 28th. We had a presentation by Senate Chair Colleen Quinn, Vice Provost Fabio Escobar, Principal Counselor Verlaine Quinney, and Distance Learning, Director of Distance Learning and Alternative Programs, Pat Ryan, on the Suny Student Satisfaction Survey. There was a lot of questions, a lot of interesting discussion. And at the end of the day, we realized we have to do our own ECC student survey because we need to know what challenges our students are facing and what we can do to address those challenges to make them successful. We also had a presentation by Phil Struble, Vice President of Enrollment Management, and Andy Anesi, who is head of our what does Andy do? Director of Excellence Center, on our student orientation. Again, that's a work in progress. We have been meeting almost every other week on our student orientation, trying to make that a more robust document. And then we also, upon my recommendation, the Board of Trustees approved 4 individuals for promotion at the college. Tony DeLessio is moving from a full-time faculty member to the Director of Grants, Institutional Grants. And then we have 3 deans that are moving from an academic dean to an associate vice president. Jamie Smith, Adiam Sagai, and Juan Martinez are all taking additional responsibilities left vacant when PJ Wiles retired. So they're going to be dividing up some of PJ's portfolio. So all 3, along with Tony, were approved by the Board of Trustees. So I just wish them the best of luck, and I hope that everybody at the college rallies around those individuals. Tony brings a very interesting perspective on grants, and he's going to engage the faculty to be aggressive looking for grants, and we want to come up with a way that we can compensate those faculty members for seeking those grants, those new dollars that are coming to the institution. I know Amy and Mark are going to give a quick update on our COVID and COVID response. I will say thank you, thank you, thank you. We have to do 100% tests. Suny is mandating. We have to do 100% pool tests each week for every student and staff member on this college. To date, as of yesterday, close of business, we had tested since spring started 2,567 pool tests. 1,012 of those were staff and faculty. Our positivity rate for that group is 0.31%, not 3%, not 31%, 0.31%. So we are doing a great job. You are all doing a great job. Our students are doing a great job. So continue to do what you're doing best. Just yesterday was our largest number of students and staff that were tested, 314 just yesterday, which is pretty incredible. The state Suny will be watching that we do 100% tests, and they have told us in no uncertain terms they will shut us down if we're not complying with that 100% mandate. So please share with your students. Please share with the staff members in your departments. If they're coming on campus during the week, they need to be tested. It's a very simple process. I've done pool tests last Thursday. I'm doing one tomorrow. I have mine scheduled for next week. You can schedule them out for the entire semester. This Thursday, the college has been asked to attend a legislative committee session of the Community Enrichment Committee, and they would like to discuss the college's equity, diversity, and inclusion plan. as well as the policies and ways we help students of color be successful. So there's several of us that will be participating in that Zoom session. This Friday, we have our committee of the whole. Several people on this call are also part of that committee. And we will be having several updates, but we will be discussing plans for a virtual commencement. Suny, once again, is mandating everyone to do virtual commencement, regardless of what we look like in May. So we will be discussing plans with the board on our virtual commencement. I will also be giving an update on the proposed state budget. The proposed state budget as it stands right now is contingent upon $6 billion in federal stimulus. $6 billion. So if the $6 billion does come to the state through the stimulus, our cut right now, which is 20% state aid reduction, is going to be trimmed to about 5%. So we get funded based upon enrollment. We were looking at about a $600 decrease per FTE. Now we're looking at about a $150 decrease if, again, the governor's budget and we get the $6 billion. Chancellor provided testimony last Thursday at the higher education budget hearing, and then both the Senate and Assembly will be submitting their budget versions in mid-March. The other interesting thing contained in the budget, in the verbiage, is a proposal for program reviews not to have to get SED approval. They could just get Suny approval. They're looking to expedite the approval process unless it involves a master plan amendment. So we're doing new programs to just go through Suny and not have to go all the way through SED, which certainly adds a time to the process. And then my final update is on the presidential search. As of early this morning, there are 28 people that are on the presidential search committee. The search committee conducted listening sessions, I think, with trustees, students, staff, faculty, foundation, alumni, and community partners. This search committee is having their first formal meeting with the firm that was selected on February 19th, and they are hoping to finalize a timeline throughout the spring semester to conduct and complete the process for the permanent president Suny here. That concludes my report, Colleen, and as always, if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to respond to them.
Awesome, thanks, Bill. Does anyone have any questions? Looks like you're off the hook. So my attendance poll didn't work, so that was a good experiment today. So I'll figure that out maybe for March. And then it'll be the next Senate chair's problem, because I forgot to add this at the beginning, but Erica and I, this is the end of our third term. So we've been doing this 5 years. And typically, we try to get, we should get new people into this leadership role, but also because then we can all have different representation across the college and things like that. So I do want to throw that out there. If anyone's interested, there will be an election in April, right, Michael Rio, or is it May? I think it's May. I think April is the election. Oh, Michael, you there?
Yeah, I just found the mute button. Yeah, it's May.
So it's May. All right, awesome. Thank you. So just, putting that out there. And for those who are watching from home and you think you might be interested in this as well, you could always run for election, which Michael will talk about when we get to the governance portion. Run for election and become a senator. You'll be a senator in April, and then you could be the Senate chair in May. And that's what I did, actually. I was appointed in March 5 years ago, and then I ran for Senate chair in that May. So it's doable. So everybody keep that in mind. So anyway, with that, I'm going to go back to the agenda, and we have Amy Yoder and Mark Pacholik, our leaders of COVID. Turning it over to you.
Thanks, Colleen. Hi, everyone. Like I said, this is always my favorite meeting to come to because there's so many awesome faces here. Hope everyone's doing well. Just wanted to give you a brief overview. First and foremost, I want to thank the people that stepped up and were able to give some of their time to assist with pool testing. As President Reuter had mentioned, you know, this is a mandate from the Suny. This is not Amy having fun, I swear, because it's not fun. But I want to thank so many of you who gave up some time, from College Senate President here, to ITS staff, to faculty, to administrators, to support staff, to students. This really was a community effort, and we are really pulling through, and I really do appreciate everyone's support. I hope those that are volunteering are enjoying it, because you do get to interact, not through a computer screen, with people. And, you know, I've heard such great feedback from the volunteers so far. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for your support and compliance with this mandate. So I just wanted to just touch on real lightly and go over what happens if somebody's positive on campus. So be it a staff member or a student, you should contact either myself or Mark Petrolik right away. Contact tracing takes place, that interview takes place immediately, so that we establish who were the direct exposures, what is the area on campus, what is effective. Generally, within that 24-hour time span, it's usually less than that, we have that complete area that someone was positive in sanitized with the electrostatic gun, where they come in and shoot everything. I know that sounds a little crazy to say that on a college campus, but we're shooting it with sanitation. So that space gets immediately cleaned, and only those that have a direct exposure to someone are placed into quarantine. So it's a good thing when you don't get a quarantine order. Keep that in mind. What then happens from there, we pass that information on to the Department of Health, because we're always in contact communication with Erie County Department of Health, and they will do follow-up interviews for those more personal contact tracing interviews of who they're out in their personal life, who lives with them, things to that extent. Quarantine orders only go to someone who was in direct exposure to the positive, so it doesn't get passed on from that person. So just keep that in mind. COVID tracker. Can I share my screen real quick, Colleen, if you don't mind? I just wanted to show this super, super quick because I think this is really important. Oop. All right, so this is our coronavirus webpage on our SUNY Erie page. And right here at the top is that SUNY COVID-19 case tracker. And this has recently been updated from SUNY. So there's some detailed information on here that I encourage you to check out. Every single day I update this. Even on Christmas, this was updated. Every single day, every day of the week, by 4 o'clock every day, I submit numbers here. So all you simply have to do, so you can do from a state perspective, you can do any college perspective, but from our own little neck of the woods, you can get information here, and it'll tell you, you know, approximately those testing numbers, give you some good graphs, total positives that we have in a 14-day period. But they also recently just broke this down between students and employees too, so you can see the number of people that we're testing, and you can see how this is jumping as we increase testing here. So this is some good information. There's also metrics by campus too, which is kind of interesting because, you know, I hear from other people that are like, oh, so-and-so is bringing everybody back on campus. Yeah, well, that's not the number they're reporting to SUNY. So these are total population counts that each of the other SUNY schools have reported into SUNY, and those are the amount of people that they're going to be testing weekly as well. So as much as I complain, sometimes it's not so bad. When there's 27,000, that's a lot. So I just wanted to show that to everybody and give you an opportunity to check that out yourselves. One other note before I pass it over to Mark is that I just want to mention we get a lot of phone calls about the vaccine. Just a reminder, we are not in the administration or distribution plan of the vaccine at all. I'll be honest with you, we probably would have done things a little differently, but that's just me talking. But yeah, we don't have anything to do with scheduling the vaccines. I highly encourage you to go to the state website and call the 1-800 number. But a little point to keep in mind is that there is 10 million New Yorkers that are vying for 300,000 doses per week. That's a really big number and a little. So just keep in mind that eligibility doesn't equal availability, and that you just have to stay diligent. Go on that website, refresh. You might have to go on off hours too, because I know they do add appointment times in the middle of the night or after business hours. So strongly encourage you, go to that website, refresh constantly. And if you have someone that you're looking for, especially if they're 65 years and older, to find a vaccine, check out pharmacies. That's how I got my mom in. Local pharmacies were the best way to go through. Get your name on the list through them, register through them. I think Rite Aid is opening up in like next week or something like that. So check it out and get information there. Mark, I'll pass it over to you. Thank you so much for the time, Colleen.
Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to stay on vaccines for a little bit, as Amy hit on it. The county's been directed to direct anybody that's 65 or older to go to pharmacies. So there has been some confusion. They've gotten direction from the state health department. So just so everybody's out there, if you have somebody you want to know, or you need to get them tested. As far as the pod sites, our vaccine sites, South Campus is currently open today. It'll be open the rest of this week through Friday from 9 in the morning till 8 at night. They're working on second doses this week. On Saturday, they'll also be working on second doses from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. South Campus may also be open for first doses on Saturday this week. The county is getting more first doses in, so they're going to have people coming for first and second doses. I'm glad I'm not in that logistics business because that becomes complicated. North Campus will be open for first doses this week, probably Thursday. They haven't confirmed their staffs, but it'll probably be Thursday. They also may have enough vaccine to have North open next week. Any questions on vaccines? Okay, moving on. As far as testing, the county consolidated rapid testing sites. We had one at South Campus, which was open Monday through Friday. There was one up in Bowmansville, and there was one at the Fire Training Academy in Cheektowaga. They've consolidated all of those sites to just the one in Cheektowaga. So if you need a rapid test, and they just announced today, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, it was about 10 o'clock this morning, anybody can now get a rapid test, whether you have symptoms or not. The county made that announcement today. You just have to call that 858-2929 number and schedule for a rapid test. The PCR drive-through testing has also been shut down at South Campus until further notice. The last thing about the county is they continue to supply our college with PPE for our staff and for our pool testers. So they're doing a great job assisting us. And the one thing that may make our lives a little bit easier when it comes to pool testing, I was just on a phone call with Suny, and it's probably going to be within the next 2 weeks, but UB South is going to open a testing lab. So instead of all of our tests going to Syracuse, we literally can drive them up to UB South campus. Colleen, that's all I have unless there's questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark and Amy. It looks like there's no questions. But I will make sure that I include the COVID tracker link as well as the reminder that ECC is just the host for the vaccines and not the in charge of the vaccines when I send out my email.
I'll send you the 800 number, the link as well, Colleen.
Oh, beautiful. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to pull up the agenda again. See, maybe. There it is. Okay, so we are at old business. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Rio with information for governance.
Hi, Colleen. Can I also share a screenshot for the list of nominees for nominations?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Go for it. You got it.
Figure out how to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so February begins the election cycle for governance. The listed seats that are up on this election cycle are included here. There are some vacancies, and if you're an incumbent in one of these seats, your name is listed as incumbent. You may have been appointed, which means it was a temporary appointment, and the election cycle resumes, with February's call for nominations. And for any of these seats, you can self-nominate or nominate someone in that category. But there's quite a few elections this cycle, and we just encourage people to make nominations, reach out to people in your division or outside your division to get participation in College Senate. The call for nominations is
Real
open until
quick.
March 1st. Yes, go ahead.
Just for those watching at home, they wanted it blown up. If you are looking at your screen, to the left is a magnifying glass. So if you need it blown up, go ahead and click the plus sign. And then there was another question in the chat. What is the difference between the names that have parentheses and the ones that do not? Thank you.
Names in parentheses were appointments. So those were temporary one-year appointments. They were filling existing vacancies. So anyone in parentheses, it would be considered an incumbent if they're in that category, but they may be filling in a category that's not representing their own constituency or campus. So this is informative to members that may be appointments and needed updates on that status. But yeah, so that should answer the parenthesis question. Nominations are accepted at Senate Governance at ecc.edu, and the call for nominations is open until March 1st. And then the elections will be conducted online. They should close at College Day, at the end of College Day, but we'll have them open and available probably a week before College Day. Terms are 3-year terms, and they begin on June 1st. So there's going to be some trickiness about the election cycle, the beginning of terms, and then the election in May for the officers, chair and vice chair, but we'll figure that out.
And did you want to talk about the spot for the Senate Executive Committee?
Yes, and there is an opening in the Senate Executive Committee as well with the retirement of John Dana. So we can accept nominations at Senate Governance for that position as well. Those nominations should be coming from voting members of the Senate, and the election will happen on the floor of the Senate in the March meeting. And I can certainly answer any questions, but that's the election cycle update at the moment.
That's great. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to need you to stop sharing so we can switch. There we go. Thank you very much. And I'm just going to check and make sure she's here. I'm pretty sure she's here. Julie, is Julie Guys here? I don't see her. All right, so well, Workday Student is going live soon. And so we were gonna have CITS here quickly to just kind of give us a brief heads up about different items that'll be on blackout periods and a few features of what it can do for our students and for our faculty through Workday. But I don't see Julie Guys here. So we're going to skip that item for now. And if she comes back, joins us out, we'll switch it to then. All right. So let's see. Chancellor's Awards, Erica and Jackie Bossman. I'll let you address that.
Sorry, I lost my mute button for a second. So Chancellor's Award, we've had a few nominations collected. So now we're just in the process of reviewing them for this week, kind of putting together the packets. And the deadline for submitting them is going to be Tuesday, the 16th. I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday. I don't think it's going to be that Monday, so I'm pretty sure it's that Tuesday. And
Yes.
that's really, that's all I have. I mean, we're at the tail end of it. Yay. Jackie, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. Yeah, we have until February 16th to submit to SUNY. So yeah,
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
right.
So we have to submit them to SUNY on the 16th?
Yes.
All right, so any nominations would be due.
I would say you're cutting it awfully close at this point because we already have nominations and they have to be reviewed.
Right.
And we have to make sure all the portions of the nomination packets are included. So my recommendation is please don't last minute us with stuff. Like, I'm just gonna say, please take pity on us. And you can, if you want to do it next year, you guys, it happens every year. And we have plenty of opportunities to get our amazing faculty and staff and administrators all in at various years.
Beautiful.
But the packets are big and heavy. Well, they're not heavy because they're digital, but there's a lot of parts to them. So it's not just a matter of like, here's my application. There's a lot of levels to it. And so it takes us some time to actually go through it. So
Right. And it also takes
my
the person
PSA.
who's nominating, it's quite a bit of work to get all
Yes.
of the materials in. So we're going to say that if you wanted to nominate someone, it should have been done by yesterday.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But if you have it all ready, just maybe by the end of today at the latest. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn it over to Dave Uzinski, who is joining us from our Senate Task Force on the placement exam. And Maria is also here from EAL. All right.
I'm here.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
All right. Take it away. You're on mute, Dave.
It is 2021. You would think I would know this by now. Thanks, Colleen. All right, so the placement task force group has been busy, to say the least. We've had quite a few items on our agenda, so we had to have 2 meetings back to back. One was in English as an additional language focus from that department, and the other one was just math and English placement in general. So let me just try to summarize things that we've discussed and hopefully outcomes that'll be happening soon. And maybe again just address some of the issues that were coming up. So I think it's almost been like 2.5 years, 3 years that the English high school GPA waiver went into place, and that has been a point of contention with EAL students slipping through the cracks because that was the only way to truly identify them prior to them being identified as EAL and having to take placement testing specific to that. So having seen that, I know that I've worked with several people, and this has been ongoing in the summer, where some of the counselors, and I know I worked with Amy Spahn and Maria this summer, and we were trying, they developed like an interim process where if they found something on their transcript, like an what's this called, a NYSESALT exam, then those students were referred to the EAL department or to testing, to Diane's McLaughlin's department for placement testing. So we wanted to shore up this process. We wanted to make this a little bit better. So we had some discussions, and here's basically what we came up with: that students selecting English, not selecting English as their primary language on the admissions document would be tagged in Workday. So we're going to try to have this a Workday tag being generated that's EAL. Now that group then will be referred to the EAL department so that they may advise them on placement. So they could talk to them over the phone over a 5-10 minute conversation, determine whether or not they have English fluency or not, and determine which way they need to go. Do they need to then take placement testing, or are they good to go into, let's say, an EN 100 or wherever their normal placement would have been? That's the goal. Right now, we would like to use that EA Workday tag to prevent students from actually just being able to register for courses, but that's a process with Workday. So Fabio had let me know that's a work in process, and it will happen eventually. But I don't think that's a huge issue at this moment, because if those students are referred to the EAL department, they work diligently to reach out to their students, and I think by them being their advisors, those students, will be advised to the proper courses that they need to take. So I think that's the next step in that process, as well as coming down the road, is we're going to have to generate a correspondence letter as well for those students who were identified. A second thing that actually came out of this was that EN 100 course registration, students needing to pass EN 132 or 142, EN 142, because those numbers had changed, we're no longer being blocked from registering for EN 100. So that was just a loophole that needed to be fixed. And so I worked with Diane McLaughlin for several hours one morning, and we went through all the waivers, and we tried to, if you're looking at my screen, there's a lot of pseudocode here about how a student could get into EN 100. There are lots of ways that they could be prevented. And well, this is a pretty complicated algorithm here on an if-then statement. So I shared that with Fabio and Phil, and hopefully that'll be implemented at some point for the English 100 registration. Okay, that was EAL. I don't have the chat open, so I can't see if there's questions. Yes. Oh, thank you, Maria. She put in there, it's a New York State ESL achievement test is what this stood for. So after that meeting, and we felt like we were finally accomplishing something, like we're actually making some progress. This was very good. This was a good meeting. Then the next meeting was a focus just on English and math placement. So all these documents are included in the Senate docs. I did edit this one a little bit just to kind of talk about the co-recs that we're offering. So some of the topics that we discussed in math and English placement, the co-recs and student retention, we need data on that. Like, yeah, we're doing co-recs, but how are students actually performing after that semester? Are we retaining them? Are they signing up? Do they feel confident in their abilities? We need to do that both for EN 052 and the EN 100 program from the English department, and for the piloting of the co-recs in the math department. So the math department this semester is piloting a 112, a 116, and a 125, where they have additional contact hours, and the students can skip or bypass the developmental course in front of that. So they can skip 006 for 112 and 116, and they could skip the 013 for the 125. That content, or that developmental content, then is woven into these courses so that students get the extra time they need to perhaps help them succeed just in time. There is a lot of research to show that having access to credit-bearing courses during that semester leads to more success, as students are more motivated to complete their classes instead of being mired into the developmental for semester after semester. Placement testing, we've done a lot of internal data analysis and found that placement testing, isn't always the best for placement. As a matter of fact, we don't have anything great. High school average is about the best we can do right now. We're working on other things, which I'll get to in a second. But placement testing will be only for students referred by EAL, so students from the EAL department who've been referred to them, and students without a high school transcript, because they can't be placed by high school average currently. Some investigation, some things that we're planning to do immediately. The English department has created this exceptional Microsoft Forms survey, this directed self-placement survey. And we've been working feverishly since the meeting, which was on last Tuesday, so we're a week out. And we've got, I think, most of the pieces in place. And basically, we had to tweak this a little bit because it wasn't done prior to registration. The goal would be to have this survey answered by students after admission, but before registration. Okay, and then students would take this directed self-placement survey to make decisions, then their best decisions on what courses they should register for. Just this past week, Brian Millville, Diane, myself, and we saw one from another college for math. So there's a directed self-placement survey that Diane was able to find that looked excellent. So, I mean, we're going to try to maybe work on this and tweak this. We recognize that making these changes to the Workday implementation, this is not going to happen for this fall. It won't happen for the spring 2022, but maybe fall 2022, if I have the dates correctly. So we're going to try to get this implemented this week. So the one thing I need to ask is, we're going to ask for volunteers. So if you would like to email, see if I can highlight this. If you would like to email myself or Michael Rio, that would be awesome. We could send you the link to the form, and you could just post it in your Blackboard course, and students taking this survey will automatically be identified. What we're trying to do is, with some of the other questions in this directed self-placement survey, is trying to gather some background information. And we're hoping to do this again in the fall, just to get some baseline. Another avenue that we were looking at that, at the placement task force meeting, again, there's a lot of good information that comes out of these meetings. We were using Success Navigator for students who took the placement test, I think in 2016, 17, 18. But Success Navigator, I guess, no longer exists. That's what I was led to believe, that the company actually doesn't exist anymore. But we had a lot of data from this, and we're hoping that we can use this for we're going to evaluate this spring just to kind of get some idea, how does non-cognitive surveys actually help our students? Can we identify how the students did after taking the Success Navigator? We have some faculty members who remember looking at those scores. Some don't, they were in Starfish. It was just hard to find. But Diane McLaughlin, again, thank you for the data. We have this, and hopefully we'll be able to evaluate that this spring. Another thing so there's a lot going on with placement. Another thing going on, and I'm sorry, is RISE workshops. So we're going to try to rework RISE math workshops. Instead of having a directed in-class, quick 1 credit, 1 week course like simulation, we're going to try to do this as cohorts. So month-long cohorts in Blackboard self-paced, and we're going to have a faculty member from the math department, paid so many instructional hours to be to give some guidance and give feedback, answer emails. But mostly the work is going to be self-paced. It's going to be done online. The students can actually do that work and improve their placement. Okay, or, which we're hoping, is students who maybe have placed into a higher level math course but feel that they've been out of school for several years or just not confident in their math abilities could use this to shore up their background information. We're hoping to begin our first month-long cohort in May. So Brian Millville and myself will be working on getting those workshops fully ready. We did make quite an improvement to the workshops for last summer. Okay, and then English, RISE workshop is still under development. We don't know a timeline when that's going to be ready. So we'll be working with the English department to find out when their RISE workshop might be ready to go. We're going to continue with the COVID-19 high school GPA emergency placement for fall 2021. We don't have any data really to change that at the moment. Things are in flux. We can't really get people to campus to placement test, nor does placement testing really work better than high school GPA, but we could, whatever. It is what it is for now. There was a thorough analysis done below about the fall 2020 semester. But it is, remembered, difficult to compare to fall 2019 as they were entirely different experiences for our students. So I did a summary here of what all these charts are below. I know I'm speeding through this, but the documents are included in the folder, so you can actually access them. So you can actually look at it. Some of our big takeaways, and I think everyone knows this, are drop in enrollment, and actually the number of seats went down by 22.5% from 39,000 seats to 30,000 seats. And I'm going to close there, but before I close, I thought I would just share all the people who have helped in this endeavor. I know I'm going to miss somebody, so I'm sorry if I miss somebody. This is always a chance that I'm taking. So I'd like to thank Doug, Phil, Fabio, Joanne, Jamie, and Andy Anesi. They are all the administrators that were helping on their end. Amy Spahn has been very helpful in terms of giving us information about student transcripts and really was diligently trying to help us this summer. Diane, without Diane's help and with all her data, unbelievable. The English department, specifically Michael Rio, Ann, and Mary, their directed self-placement form and survey was just, I was they had this ready to go for a while, and now we're actually going to implement a good portion of it. They had to rework it in the last couple days just so that we could do this for the spring semester. Maria Masfera and their entire EAL department has been great. The turnaround time and the hours and hours spent working to try and help, that's been awful. It has been awesome. The math department, including Colleen Quinn, Brian Millville, and Tim Sircone. And last but not least, everyone else who donated their time and came and attended and gave some comments at the placement task force meeting. Sue Rothwell, Adrian Rannick, Chris Morrow, Susan McLaughlin, Andrew Heisey, Erica Hendra, Steve Gurich, Christine Gutt, Sabrina Kane, Caitlin, okay, I'm not going to know how to pronounce her name, Caitlin Byercree, Allison Ford, Domingo Rodriguez, Adelaida Lugo, and Nate Wallace. Okay, I think I got everybody, I hope. And if I forgot someone's name, I do apologize. Any questions?
Dave, could you repeat that? I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I was
Just
given a
kidding.
time. I was giving a time constraint of like 5 minutes. I was trying, or 5 to 10. Okay, 5 to 10.
Yeah, I gave you 5 to 10. I was being lenient with you, Dave. That's a lot of important stuff. that-
No, it's amazing. Dave is an amazing leader for this really important work that we have. And the one problem and issue we had is we're hoping to address with the EAL change. So I just want to thank Dave for all his work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Dave.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to the EAL students especially. Thank you.
All right. Well done, everybody. Thank you. We got some clapping. Everyone's learning how to use WebEx. So with that, let's see where we are. All right, we are going to talk about some proposed bylaws. So I'm going to just give me a minute to get those up. And so with the proposed bylaws, it's a move to try and let's see. I can't do two things at once is what's happening here. All right, there we go. All right, so ECC is the only community college in Suny that does not have our academic committees underneath governance. All right, we have 4 that are GAP committees, and we're working to move them under the College Senate. And this is nothing new, but we finally got some language together and some information and some things that we can add to our bylaws. So these are proposed bylaws. This first one is for the General Education Committee, and which Erickson Nealons is the chair. And Gen Ed and NCDC both saw this ahead of time. Gen Ed has passed this. All right, I'm trying to scroll down here. So here's our committee makeup. So we made sure that we included everybody from that's currently a member of Gen Ed, but also with some specifics about making sure that we have at least one representative from each of the liberal arts and non-liberal arts areas. And you'll see we have, it looks huge, but as many as 3 academic deans, 3 librarians, someone from IRAP, DL, equity and diversity, and then applied learning. And then just a few things about voting. And then this, the authority. So a lot of this we got from the contract already and from CDO's, from the SUNY Erie Gap website. So this is the part, the communication and interaction with the College Senate. This is actually already happening. Erickson and I have been working very closely for a couple of years now, where we've been, we talk back and forth, and then a large item that comes out of Gen Ed comes to the Senate, and we put it up for a vote for approval. For example, in December, we just did the SUNY Erie ILOs. So that is the first one. And I'm going to pull up the second one. Okay, and this one is for CWCC, which is our college-wide curriculum committee. All right, can we see that one? All right, thanks, Bray. And this, I worked with Brian Millville, and who's the chair of the CWCC, and Kathy Calesto, who is the chair of NCDC, which is New Curriculum Development Committee. And so our plan for this, and again, a lot of this is adapted from the gap planning page. We just put it on one spot, and also from the contract, FFECC contract to be specific. And again, it just puts everything nice and neat in one area. And here is the specific language from the contract. And then this stuff in italics is what is getting added. So specifics about membership, voting, things like that, who can be non-voting members, who's ex officio, and NCDC will be absorbed by CWCC. The thought process behind that is it's a lot of the same people, and that'll move it into one meeting per month for them, but it's also more efficient that way. And the communication with the College Senate is the same as General Education Committee. Whatever they do and their committee, they send a report to me, and anything that is large and concerning of the entire college, then we would vote on that. So for example, we voted in November on the micro-credential policy. So things like that. But we will not be voting on every single item that is done within these committees, because these committees are made up of people who we all they've been put there for a reason. They're representatives from all the different areas. They're representatives of faculty, deans, all across the board. So those are proposed. Those are something that we will be voting on in March if we're going to accept them. Does anyone have any questions? And I should add that CWCC also approved that proposed bylaw change. And I want to just give a shout out to Michael Delaney. He's here, resurrected from retirement again. But this is his baby, right? This is something that Michael's been trying to get accomplished for most of his career. Do you want to add anything, Michael? Look at him. No.
No.
All right. So there are two other committees that will be moving from the gap that we're going to be proposing to move, and that is academic standards. And we've been working with Joanne Komarauer, who's the co-chair of that committee, with that language. And then there is the academic assessment. So I'll be reaching out to the chair of that, Sabrina, and working to move that forward. So those are the four academic centered committees. And to quote our provost, curriculum is the purview of the faculty, and this is our faculty governance structure, and it just makes sense to have it under the College Senate. And we'll be like everybody else. And, you know, where when you're asked questions about where your curriculum committee is and you say, oh, well, we got it in the contract, right? It's actually functioning as a piece of governance. Any questions? Well, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. All right. So we will be voting on those in March, and I'm hoping to have the language for the proposal of academic standards and academic assessment ready as a preview for March, and then a vote in April. And there we go. And so next up on the agenda is Joanne Colmer-Auer has, I'll share it. Hang on. A policy all right. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the language I'm working on. It's still messy. There it is. All right, can we see it?
Not yet,
Not yet.
just gray.
Okay,
There it is.
there it is.
Okay. Take it away.
Go for it.
Okay. Thanks, Colleen. So this is a policy that academic
to do that.
standards. Oh, it's gone. I can try and share it. I'll share it. See if this works.
Thanks. I tried to mute myself and I closed it.
Oh, okay.
I'll mute myself now.
Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Okay, okay. So this is a policy that academic standards tackled over the course of a couple meetings. I think the statement of purpose is just kind of explains why we did it. We wanted to have a minimum standard for the transfer of course credit. And we wanted to clarify the number of credits that were needed before a degree was granted. What we found was that there was no official policy, board policy about transfer credit. There was policy language in the catalog, but there was no, well, there was a policy actually, and that's what's under edited. It used to be called the student residence requirement policy. And that policy only stated that you had to take 30 college credits at ECC in order to graduate. It didn't have anything about minimum grade. It didn't have anything that allowed for differences with departments. So it was a very basic, and it was called student residence. So the policy committee recently changed the name back in March. That student residence requirement name didn't seem to be descriptive of what it was about. So they changed the name and they changed it to course transfer credit policy. So there it sat for about another 6 months. And then academic standards brought the policy back up and we said, well, let's see if we can add some content outside of just the residence of 30 credit hours. Let's see if we can add some content to the policy about minimum standards. So that's what we did. And there is one other policy I'll just mention. It's called the Recognition of Transfer and Prior Learning. That was a policy written by Jamie Smith and approved recently. So that also is talking about transfer credit, but it is more about things like AP and IB and LEAP and things like that, prior learning. So we decided not to group it all into that policy. So that's still a standalone policy. So that's a lot of policy talk, but in the end, we have two now. We have this course transfer policy, and then we have this recognition of prior learning. So I have it on the screen here. You'll see the numbered pieces of the policy. We had lots of heated debates in academic standards. Then it went to Senate exec. There was quite a bit of discussion there. It came back. Jim Birrell and I met with the Senate exec. We went over a number of the items. I'll point out just a couple things that there was some debate about and where we ended, and then I'll see if Jim wants to make any comment on it. Let's see, the couple of highlights on this are number 5, that students who intend to receive a degree or a certificate must successfully complete at least 50% of the required credits at ECC. That sort of went back and forth a little bit. At one point, we had that they had to take 51% at ECC. Suny, Senate exec came back. We kind of debated and we went down to 50%. We feel that's in the same nature as the 30 credit hours of the previous policy. It depends on how many credits are in the degree. But so right now, what we're putting forward in front of you states that students have to take at least 50% at ECC. The other debated piece of this was the grade. So what we settled on here is no course with a grade below a C-. That matches what our policy has been stated in the catalog up to this point. So we did not change that. We're just making it official in a board policy. What we did do is we added this statement: academic units may require courses with a grade higher than a C- to be applied to their program. So it doesn't mean it won't come into the college, it just can't be applied to their program. And those were the 2 hotly debated items on this. Jim, do you have any other things you want to point out or mention?
No, those are the 2 big things, the grade and the amount of credit hours being at 50%, up to 50%.
Okay. One thing I'll mention here is that this was a question that came before academic standards, was when a student presents with a transfer credit from a college that we haven't seen before. Some departments were requiring that all 3 department chairs from 3 campuses had to review it and approve it before the student could get the credit. Some departments were just doing like the department chair on that campus. So we wrote some language in to help move the process along for students, but also to maintain the integrity of the 3 chairs. So number 9 speaks to that. If it's not been established as part of our transfer matrix, the transfer is to be evaluated by the department chair, by a single department chair can use their discretion to determine the equivalency for a student. But in order for it to be added to the transfer matrix, all of them have to reach a consensus. So we thought that might be a common or a good compromise. I think that is about it on the highlights on this. Most of this was in the catalog previously. Does anybody have any questions on some of this that they see? No? That's good. No questions is good. I see Jim smiling. That's good. We've had enough questions about this. We actually had a democratic vote on this in academic standards. Dave said, does this apply for reverse transfer? Let me think about this for a minute. I'm thinking about all the items, Dave, that are included on this, and I would say yes. Yes, I'm thinking like the standard, so Dave's asking if somebody is doing reverse transfer, do all of these things count? It's a really good question. I would have to go through each one of them and see, but yes. In my experience with reverse transfer for general studies, where we get a lot of them, this would all count. Like we don't, if they already have more than 30 credit hours, we don't let them transfer more of it in. They have to have a C-. We don't know, modality number 8 here isn't taken into account. So I would say yes, Dave, for the most part it would, for reverse transfer.
And Dave also put in the chat matriculated with a question mark.
Yeah, that's number up here. It is transfer credit is it's number 2, only awarded to matriculated students. Yep.
I guess my question about that was, if they're reverse transfer, how can they be matriculated?
If they, oh, well, they're not. That's a good question. So if they're, yeah, if they're, so reverse transfer is kind of a different thing, right? They are not matriculated if they are requesting reverse transfer. They would have been matriculated at one point in the past, but reverse transfer is kind of a separate initiative. But so we'd have to almost go through each number here and see if it is applied in the reverse transfer program. It may not be a bad idea to have a either a reverse transfer policy, a separate one, or I don't know, I guess I need to go through each of these numbered items. There are 11 of them, and make sure that they do apply. And if they do, maybe add a statement about that in here. Because number 2 would, right, that would be not accurate for reverse transfer. So good question. Dave Bohinski put in the chat that you guys are all on mute, so you can't ask questions, which is a good plan. It wasn't mine though. I don't see the chat. Hang on.
Right. Someone's asking what a reverse transfer is. So a reverse transfer is, let's say you attend 2 or 3 semesters at ECC and you transfer to Buffalo State, right? So you can transfer credits back to get that associate's degree and then continue your studies at whatever your current institution is. And then I would say, we haven't, you know, we're just introducing this right now. We can put a statement on this right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm reading through it. There's no expiration on courses. And I'm thinking that it's all applicable to reverse transfer, other than number 2 that states that they have to be matriculated.
Maybe we could just put a semicolon on number 2 and say this does not apply to reverse transfers.
Yeah, that we're trying to get a few courses matriculated. Any student can be evaluated with or without me. Colleen, what's that chat that just came through about reverse transfer? I can't see chat.
So from Derek Bateman, we only evaluate for reverse transfer if we are trying to get a few courses from the next college transfer to ECC, so the student can be graduated from ECC. Perfect, thank you, Derek. And Marlene Arno, a student cannot get a degree awarded with being matriculated. Any student can be evaluated with or without matric.
So they can be evaluated, but transfer credit is only awarded to matriculated students. So we don't award, they can be evaluated, Marlene, and there is a lot of evaluation that goes on, but it doesn't get awarded to non-matriculated students on their transcripts. Is that did you reply back on that one?
No, that must be good. And then, all right, Kathy Calesto has another question.
Okay.
This is a general question. Is it common for an academic institution to have all of these Board of Trustee policies with the other policy about advanced studies, and I think that's advanced studies, right? And LEAP had similar language, and now potential of reverse transfer. These all should be in our college catalog as well, correct? A student wouldn't be reading our Board of Trustees policies, I wouldn't think.
Right, they are in at least the ones, like for instance, the academic forgiveness policy that we recently approved, that is now in the catalog. There is transfer information is in the catalog, so it is, and I'll make sure that the new policy language does get posted in the fall catalog. I agree, students don't typically see board policies, but they're important to have, I think. Yeah, we make sure that they're posted. It's typically the author on these will kind of follow through to make sure they get in the catalog. I think, Colleen, you had suggested transfer credit is only awarded to matriculated students, and then something like,
We would first need to make a motion to amend. So if you want to go ahead and make that motion, Joanne,
Yeah.
and we'll have someone second it. And then I'm not going to be able to do, oh, never mind, just go ahead. All right, Joanne
yes,
made the motion. Anyone want to second it?
I'll
Brian
second
Millville. And, all right, so we're going to vote. Any questions on why we're amending this? All right, so there's no questions. Any discussion? All right, so then I'm going to say this motion passes by consensus, since there are no questions brought up at this time. So,
Okay.
all right, so that's done. But yeah, why don't we put like a semicolon at the end and just say this does not apply to reverse transfer?
Well, it
students.
actually, it actually does apply to reverse transfer. Yeah, it actually does. I went through as we were discussing and reviewed all 10 items, and it actually does apply to reverse transfer. Like I said, we don't take anything below a C-. We don't, you know, we don't take it anymore. They had to have gotten 50% in our degree. So I would say we may say transfer credit is only awarded to matriculated students and to students applying for reverse transfer.
Yeah, actually, Doug just put that in the chat. Transfer credit is only awarded to matriculated students and those seeking reverse transfer.
That's good. And those seeking. Way to get rid of a lot of words there, Doug. That was good. Okay.
Nice and
Those
concise.
seeking reverse transfer, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, it does seem to apply. That was a good point, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Dave.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments on this document?
I have a question about number 5.
Okay, Cooper?
Okay.
So I believe, but I'm not positive, that like SUNY Empire doesn't have any cap on what you have to take to get a degree from them. So, you know, we might be doing ourselves disservice. And when I'd been department chair before, a couple of times we had students that had to take an extra course here because of that 50% rule that was really redundant to stuff they'd taken someplace else. So are we doing ourselves a bit of a disservice by saying 50% period, or should we put in some kind of a way for students to petition for unusual circumstances to waive that 50%?
It's definitely one of the very highly discussed topics of this policy. I'll say that the existing residence requirement that has been in existence for quite a long time, I don't know how long, but for a long time, has stated always that a student needed to earn 30 credit hours in order to earn a degree, or 15 credit hours in order to earn a certificate. So the nature of that, or the intention of that language, was that they would take half. What we did find, and I think Derek just put in the comments, it is common for colleges to require half because we put our name on the degree. But I don't know if anyone else has any comments on it. It was.
Okay, Dave?
I could speak on for just.
Oh, thank you, Jackie.
1 second. I reached out to FCCC, the listserv, just to ask about the residency. I know that's not the language anymore, but the residency requirement for other community colleges in the SUNY system. And I don't have my notes right here, so I can't speak with exactness, but the overwhelming majority agreed that it was something along, or maintained that it was something along the lines of 50%. So this is it's the professional standard among community colleges and SUNY. And then in our conversation about it, what came up largely was basically academic integrity of our degree and our program. And I believe it was in our last conversation about this, Joanne, I think it might have been Jim who provided probably the most convincing argument for that, in my opinion. He convinced me in that moment. So I don't know if Jim can reproduce that argument, but it's pretty.
He does that. He
Yeah.
does.
But just that it's positive to maintain the basically the academic integrity of your degree and what you're putting out there. When we say something is from our institution, that what does from mean, right? But arguably it should have some robustness to it.
Thanks, Jackie. I'd forgotten you had done that research. Thank you. Jim, do you want to weigh in at all, or?
Yeah, we moved, originally we had 30 credit hours and we went to 50%. And so we are being what I consider to be extremely generous, since most of our programs are more than 60 credit hours. We're allowing more students now, more credit hours to be transferred in than ever before. I do think it's important that, I don't want to, I'm sure if Bill Reuter's on, but we don't want to start giving things away. ECC still needs to make money. And, I get it, but 50% of the courses being transferred in is pretty generous. I think it's important that, at least 50% of them are done at ECC. I think it's fair, it's equitable, makes sense. If we wanted to make more money, we could say we only allowed, 20% in. I mean, and I hate to say that, some institutions do that. So, especially the privates. And you're going to probably see that change even more in time.
Any other
questions?
Can I ask a question? Like for advisors, if there's a student who, let's say they're in their last semester at SUNY Erie and they just have 1 or 2 classes, is this something that they could use, like if they move on to UB or Buff State and then take those 1 or 2 classes there, and then those would transfer back to ECC, so then effectively they would get their degree from, their associate's degree from us? Or
Yes.
am I?
Yes. No, well, this particular policy isn't speaking to that practice exactly, although we just added mention of reverse transfer. But yes, what you just described is what we're referring to as reverse transfer. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I've actually had to advise some students to do that on just a few occasions, but that they're better served to mostly for financial aid reasons, because they're out of courses that will be required to be full-time. So yeah, they can go off to UB, take those 2 courses, and then come back to us and we'll grant the degree. But we do follow the rule that they have to have taken at least 30 credits here. So now it'll be 50% here. So that is something you should understand. If they go off to UB and take 2 there, hopefully they didn't have a lot of transfer credit already with us, because we can still only give a degree if they have 30 credit hours with us. Any other questions, concerns?
All right. So then with that, I would like to ask for a motion to approve this policy to go to the Board of Trustees.
I'll make a motion.
All right. And anyone want to second it?
Second.
Awesome. Thank you. Discussion. All right, give me a minute. Bear with me while I get the poll up. All right. And the poll is up. If you are not a voting member, please do not vote, but we will be checking the poll after the fact and eliminating any erroneous votes. All right. I'm going to close the poll. Hopefully you will see the results. And the motion passes. So congratulations, Jim and Joanne, and all your hard work working through this.
Thanks, Colleen. Thanks for letting us bring it. Thanks, everybody. So I'll make sure that that gets updated in Club.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we're gonna do things out of order here real quick. I think Julie Guys or Scott Irmer are on now. Maybe, please. Julie or Scott?
Yes.
Oh,
sorry, I wasn't
Julie.
sure if I could unmute.
All right, Julie is here. She's going to talk to us about Workday.
I am
you,
so
Julie.
sorry I was a little bit late. There's a
No
lot
worries.
going on right now. So we are, yes, we are starting. I'm just trying to share and have the correct items show up. We are just coming up to beginning our deployment of Workday, the Workday student portion of Workday, which is starting at 3 o'clock on Thursday. So there is a lot of activity going on, and deployment for Workday. Workday is going to be fully deployed on February 22nd. Those are the highlights. So I'm just going to minimize this thumbnail, and you'll see that I'm sharing a Microsoft Word document. This resembles a communication that's going to be going out tomorrow. It's still in the final draft process, so everybody here gets a little sneak preview of it. But I know that there's been a lot of discussion about Workday coming and what's happening and when are we going to know what to do and things like that. There's a lot of anxieties, and we're here to try to help work through a lot of those anxieties and make sure people know what's going on through communications, which are going to be going out weekly by email to all staff. So check your email for those updates. So the first thing is what is Workday Student replacing? Well, we've seen with human resources and finance that they used to be using Colleague to do all the operations, and we had paper time cards, and the payroll department would enter this stuff into Colleague, that we would do requisitions through Colleague, and that's DataTel. So when I say Colleague, I'm talking about Ellucian. If people are have heard that term, that's the company that owns Colleague, and a lot of people just know it as DataTel. So it's replacing that. So we used to do requisitions in Colleague. Now they're all done in Workday. So then we went on to starting to implement the student piece. And a lot of people didn't really see a huge change because it significantly impacted the admissions department and our prospects and applicants, our recruiters, the admissions staff and all of that were the ones most impacted. So we didn't see so much of it. With this implementation going live with the rest of Workday Student, it's going to impact everybody. And what is it replacing? It's replacing DataTel. Ellucian Colleague, and all of the products that pulled data out that were dependent on Colleague for their data and for their existence. So Web Advisor is another one. A lot of people, students, faculty, staff people may use Web Advisor, and that's what it's replacing. Students have been using a module called Student Financial Aid Self-Service. Maybe staff and faculty aren't as familiar with this because it's very student facing. That is a product it's an Ellucian or Colleague product, and that's going to be going away. The products for getting data out of Colleague are going to be phased out, and those are like Informer, or you may have heard of CROA. Those things are being replaced. That's what Workday is replacing. So going on, what are the key dates here that we need to know right now? And again, like I said, this is going to be emailed out. Key dates. So Thursday, February 11th at 3 p.m. Anything that you're trying to do in Colleague from Thursday, the 11th at 3 p.m. until Tuesday, the 16th at 8 a.m., Colleague or DataTel is not going to be available. It's down. We have to bring the system down so that the teams who are extracting the data from Colleague and the teams that are resetting up integrations in Workday and everything in between, that they have the opportunity to get that data out. So we're going to be working over the weekend doing that. The other thing that's going to be going down, because we are transitioning all the rest of the student operations into Workday, the application that is available from www.ecc.edu/apply, or you click on apply, that application, that online application is powered through Workday, and it is going to be down for the time frame of February 11th at 3 p.m. until February 22nd at 8 a.m. So that's a little bit different, but you'll see under Monday, February 22nd at 8 a.m., it says Workday's live, but it also says admissions will be back up. So that's when everything is back up, and it's back up in Workday. You can still get to data in DataTel or Colleague, and there will be certain operations that are still done in DataTel or Colleague or Web Advisor, but the primary activities are going to be occurring in in Workday as we're moving forward. And this is a transition period from February 22nd until October, where we're going to kind of be in between two systems. And then in October is when all of the rest of what is in Colleague is going to be brought into Workday. We will still have access to Colleague data. So if we need to check something, or we're working with somebody who came back to the college to finish their degree and there's something that doesn't look right in Workday, we will still be able to access that data in Colleague should we need to. But we're going to be operating fully in Workday at that time. There is a table that we're working on so that we can communicate what you do in Colleague or Web Advisor, what students would be going to there for, what faculty or advisors and staff people might be going to during this transition time, what they might be going to DataTel for. So we're going to make that available to everybody too, so you can see exactly what those things are. And I'm just gonna, sometimes it's hard to see what you have on your screen. I don't, let me see, yeah. So it currently looks something like this. So this is, for instance, what a student would see available in Workday versus what they would go to Web Advisor for. Of course, students can't log into Colleague. But if I'm a faculty person but not an advisor, this is what I would see. So you'll see that the different items here. You'll notice that they're date sensitive. So a rule of thumb, if you don't have this in front of you and you're trying to figure out, and you just want to go by a rule of thumb, the rule of thumb is that If it's something that's occurring in a person's life before fall 2021, then it's probably in Colleague or found in WebAdvisor. Let me give you an example. If I'm looking for my financial aid or a student's financial aid for this academic year, I would be looking in Colleague or in WebAdvisor as a student for that. If I'm looking for financial aid that would be awarded for the fall of 2021, I would be looking in Workday. Another example, if I'm registering for classes for fall of if I'm registering for classes and it's the fall of 2021 classes I'm registering for, I would be doing that in Workday. If I'm looking to register for classes in the summer, I would be doing that in Colleague because it's before fall of 2021. If I'm entering grades for midterm or for final grades for spring or for summer, that's not fall of 2021. That would be in Colleague or in WebAdvisor. If when we get to that point, I'm looking at my course roster for what I'm teaching in fall of 2021. That's going to be in Workday. So if the one thing you remember as a rule of thumb, if I'm thinking of what that thing is and it's effective for fall of 2021, I'm going to look in Workday. If it's effective for something prior to that, I would look in Colleague. All right, so I wanted to make that clear because that is probably the most difficult and complex aspect of this whole transition period. On February 16th at 8 a.m., Colleague will be back up. This includes WebAdvisor and Informer, but not the online student application. On Monday, February 22nd, Workday is live, and this means that our the key people who have been involved in this implementation, who have familiarity with Workday, including registrar advising, financial aid, and other key staff, they're going to be going into the live version of Workday to make sure everything is working well, to make sure that they feel comfortable and familiar with the system. While all employees are able to log in, we are asking that employees hold off, or if they can at least hold off on a lot of questions to our core, those academic, the departments that I mentioned right there, the registrar, advising, financial aid, and key staff people, if they hold off on some of their questions. On March 1st, along with a communication that's going to be going out as well, we're inviting the rest of the employees in the college to come into and look at different aspects of Workday that they would want to explore as well. That's when we're planning to have 1 hour a day semi-structured sessions with particular topics that all employees can join in with our functional areas, that would be registrar, advising, financial aid, and other key staff, to learn about specific functionality that will be available and when it will be available. So that, and then on March 22nd is when students are going to be able to log into Workday. When they log into Workday, they will be getting their credentials by email, like as a new student for fall of 2021. I'll get an email saying you can now log into Workday, and this is how you make sure you have your username and password. It's the same username and password that somebody is going to be using when they log on computers at ECC. It is a single sign-on system. It resembles exactly what Workday is Workday. What we see and what they see, it's all defined by the security role that you are in. So students are going to be able to see Workday with the little icon worklets of academics and finance, because that's what they interact with. They will also have their inbox, and their inbox will have when they log in for the first time, it'll have some onboarding steps for them to complete, things like submitting immunization records if that applies to them and that sort of thing. They'll be asked to or invited to review personal information and just look around in Workday to get comfortable with it. March 29th is when class registration is open and live, and students can then register for course sections. There's a difference between courses and course sections. So prior to that, students can look at, okay, I am enrolled in this program of study. What are my courses that I can take but it's just like EN 100 or something like that. It's not the actual section with the faculty person who's teaching it. It's on March 29th that they can take that course and say, okay, I'm going to register for this section now. So that's an explanation of what is upcoming in the next about month and a half, about 6 weeks, and that there will be an email sent out each week that is an update to, every week to update everyone. This is the overall, though.
Julie, thank you so much
You are very
for coming
welcome.
on, because I know we've been kind of getting, I mean myself and like the dog next to me, but hammered with questions about what's we can expect as faculty and with advisement and things like that. So there was a couple questions in the chat. One was, will there be training sessions? Which yes, there will be training sessions. Watch your email for stuff coming out of IT. And then there was one other question about Web Advisor. Will we have a dormant version of Web Advisor available to faculty that we could look up for students that go back a few years?
Web Advisor is going to be still active through till our final transition, which is in October. At that point, I'm not sure if Web Advisor is going to be available as a tool, because Web Advisor really just pulls data out of Colleague, that's its source, is Colleague, and then presents it in a different way based on who you are when you log in. So that data is always in Colleague. In Colleague, of course, you have to have the permission to access the particular type of data. So for instance, in Web Advisor, I can see my class roster. In Colleague, I have to be able to see class rosters as a whole in order to see just my class roster. So the answer is that at that point, if one needed to look at something historical that was contained in the Colleague system, it would be through the Colleague system or DataTel. And in reference to the training question, we are focusing on creating short videos that for students and for employees, maybe a little bit longer for employees, but developing libraries of videos that you can take a look at on Microsoft Stream. Microsoft Stream is available from Office 365. So if you go to myecc.ecc.edu and you click on OneDrive at the top right, then you are in an Office 365 application called OneDrive. The way that you get to additional applications on your OneDrive is there's what's called a waffle menu. It's a menu that has 9 dots on it in the upper left. You click on that, it'll show you all your applications, including Microsoft Stream. So there's a channel, Workday Learning for Employees. At this time, you can just look up Discover and find channels or find videos that have to do with Workday. These are videos that we brought together from the opening day presentation in the morning and the breakout session. So they are shorter because they are cut out of that breakout session. They are also bookmarked, so you can, or in YouTube it would be called chapters, but you can advance to the particular place that you want to start watching that video, and that's in the comments area. So this is a kind of where we're centering a lot of resources for people. So you
Awesome.
can check that out.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Julie.
You are very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to present this and keep everybody up to date and help with answering those questions that are being brought up.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we are at the end of the agenda where we usually do for the good of the order, but we are over time right now. But Tracy Archie has a few things she wanted to mention. And I'm going to give it to Tracy Archie and then I'll finish the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I will be brief. I just wanted to remind everyone that we are celebrating Black History Month right now for this month of February and Women's History Month for the month of March. And there are a lot of wonderful, very rich historical and engaging events that have already started taking place and more to come for the rest of this month and March. So please remember to check the website's homepage for an updated list of what's being offered for that week. Student Government Association has many events, as well as all the committees are part of the Equity and Diversity Council. This week, this Friday, we do have a keynote presentation pushing for a better democracy taking place on Friday at 12 noon. If you would like to attend, please send me your an email so that I can send you the link. And then the Anti-Racism Task Force has another great event coming up next week, Black and Blue Policing Communities of Color. It's going to be a very engaging discussion, a very full panel. So please remember those events. Again, check your the website and check your email because we are also sending updates. Okay, any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Hope everyone is doing well during these cold days. Thank you, Colleen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracy. All right. So with that, I want to wish you all the best of February and to try to get out there, enjoy some of that cold. I'm still making my children do daily walks outside to knock the beans out of them. But also in the spirit of Black History Month, we are reading the memoir of John Lewis with the boys. Because I think that's important. And I just want to point that out in case anyone was trying to figure out a way to incorporate it at home. There's a ton of wonderful books out there and biographies of so many people that have done wonderful things that you can help celebrate Black History Month with your children or family members. So with that, I'll see you all in March. Happy President's Day. Enjoy the holiday and we'll see you then. Take care.